So the next 36, maybe 48 hours will be all dealing with Gaza, all dealing with Israel and Hamas, all dealing with the Palestinians getting back to their homes, all dealing with the hostages coming back to Israel, all dealing with Donald Trump, who is now literally speaking about fixing his eighth war in 8 months. Well, we have another hot take on that one as well. So we're not going to have a hard time getting anything out that's newsworthy, that's conversation-wise. It's not about this. So a lot of the work we'll do for this day is going to be rehashing of bits and pieces from the Israel thing. It is. But here's one little piece that's totally went underrepresented that we want to make sure we get right here, because there's still a government shutdown. There's still issues here for the U.S., although Trump solved 8 conflicts other places, and there's still protests. Now, one protest in particular put a little different shine, if you will, where hundreds and maybe over 1,000 people actually rode through the streets of Portland, an emergency world naked bike ride happening yesterday, using humor and spectacle to push back on President Trump's grim portrayal of their city and his plan to deploy National Guard troops there. Now, organizers framed it as a peaceful dissent rooted in local culture. Apparently, it's a thing about Portlanders riding their bikes naked. I guess you got to be there. But photos and local reports show riders in various states around the city in states of undress, and many costumes and signs go along with it, including a few days ago where they had the people in the big inflatables. But this is showing the context of what's going on in reality versus what's being claimed by Donald Trump. Portland is a war-ravaged place, says Trump, threatening troop deployments to confront unrest around immigration sites and protests. He's trying to protect his ICE officers and trying to keep the protesters back. Local leaders and residents counter that they say most of the city is calm and that the federal intervention is definitely unnecessary. Federal judge has temporarily blocked the guard deployment as legal challenges are playing out in the courts. Coverage points to a large, mostly festive crowd, rain or shine, using satire, costumes, and coordinated routes to keep the event orderly. The vibe was whimsical and defiant and pointedly non-violent. Past editions have drawn thousands. This emergency edition leaned into the protests more than tradition just riding your bike naked. This is about actually having a statement. Authorities warn that riders near the ICE facilities to remain on sidewalks or risk arrest because they could be threatening. There are no immediate reports of any serious clashes between the protesters and ICE officers or federals at all tied to this ride going forward. City officials emphasize that safety and traffic management as the demonstrators pass through key corridors. The overall tone remained peaceful despite the political edge that was set. Now, this ride offers a counter-narrative to the White House's story, currently using satire and visibly rejecting the image of chaos that is Portland, or that is being portrayed in Portland by doing, naked bike rides. For many locals, it's just a statement about Portland's identity. They're civic, they're creative, they're resistance, and they lean into confrontation. They lean into it without having to have any real confrontation. They just ride around naked a lot. High visibility protests grabbed national attention somewhat as people were preparing for today for hostage releases, but it also reinforces community identity for Portland. And it actually does a bit to lower the temperature of the people involved in the area. But of course, frivolous and unserious. Just people riding around bikes to say, hey, we're cool, doesn't fix the fact that there is talk of unrest and talk of other things in the kind of sneaking in the background. Police resources get stretched for crowd control for things like this. So if something else goes down, they're not available for this one. Just like a parade. A parade takes everybody off of the patrols onto the streets, so they have to be very careful about what happens for folks not near the parade. And this was essentially a parade of naked people on bikes. Did the point get across? I think it got across to the Americans who noticed it. We'll see if it gets across to one American who is saying that Portland is all about chaos and not about any conformity, at least in his eyes, for workers around the ICE facilities.